Earlier this year, I received the Joyce Award, and the Joyce Award will help me develop a show called La Habana. And La Habana is inspired by this old salsa club that used to exist in Chicago on Belmont and Sheffield. And my parents used to go there when they first came from Colombia in the mid-60s. And in the mid-60s, that area of Chicago around the lake on the north side, like Lakeview, Lincoln Park, all the way up to Rogers Park along the lake, there was a significant Latino population, and specifically Caribbean Latinos, so Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Colombians, and there were a smattering of salsa clubs in that area. And so when my dad told me about La Habana Madrid, that was the original name of the club on Belmont and Sheffield, it kind of blew my mind, because if you go to that area of Chicago now, you would never in a million years imagine there was a big salsa club there, and that there were Latinos were a significant part of the population there. And it just made me think about the lost parts of Chicago and the parts that are disappearing, and just want to kind of excavate that. And so I'm interviewing people, specifically Caribbean Latinos that came to Chicago in the 60s, that were in Chicago in the 60s, and just talk to them about their lives. And a lot of them are now, they're in their 80s, 90s, and I really feel that I need to preserve that part of Chicago's history, our oral history, and the history that Caribbean Latinos have played in Chicagoland, and as I started my research, just going to the library, just doing basic research on Chicago's music history, I found this book called The History of Chicago Music in the 60s. And I was like, yes, gold mine, And I looked through it, and there were no Latino musicians included at all, like not even a picture or the mention of a name. And that just got me even more fired up to get to know who these people are, the musicians and the patrons that would go to these clubs. So the Joyce Foundation is a catalyst. It's definitely giving me fuel to make this project a reality, because it's a really ambitious one. Because not only is it a play with music, so I'm basing the script off of the interviews I'm conducting. I'm also going to have a live salsa band. And my father's oldest friend, Carpaccio, they've known each other from when they were, young men in Colombia. He's had a salsa band here, Carpaccio y su Super Combo, and they've been playing since the 70s. So he's on board. So he's going to be the band leader, and his band, Carpaccio y su Super Combo, are going to play the band in the show, and I'm going to get to sing with them. And that's a dream that I've always had, to sing with a salsa band, so I'm like doing it. And then I'm also making a documentary film to accompany it, because I knew I wanted to film my interview subjects and incorporate that footage along with like stock footage of Chicago and salsa dancers and salsa bands. And then I thought, if I'm already filming them, I think I need to make this into a freestanding documentary film as well. So it's like it's a two-headed monster, I'm calling it. But I'm really excited about it. And so I'm in the middle of that right now. So Collaboration has a very special place in my heart. When I first started acting, that's where my first job was. And Collaboration has been around almost 20 years. And it's interesting for me, because I did get my start acting with Collaboration, and I played all sorts of roles. I actually never played a Latina role. I was like a Russian, I was a woman from Scotland, I was just a woman, that wasn't part of the mix. So actually when I started doing more stuff outside of Collaboration, it was kind of a rude awakening for me, where I was like, oh, I'm just Latina. All of a sudden I was put in this box, and most of the work that I've done outside of Collaboration has been very ethnically specific work. And that has been great, but at times has also been frustrating. But so Collaboration has an interesting history, because at first we were doing a lot of what a lot of theater companies in Chicago do. We do a lot of like Midwest premieres of something that was really popular in New York. And we were doing that for a while, and we were also always known for our events. I think we've always been really good at bringing together lots of different kind of people. and really celebrating music and visual art as well as theater, which is something that's always been a part of us. My husband, Anthony Mosley, is the artistic director of Collaboration. And a few years ago, you know, as we're just getting older and the things that are on our minds, the things that are important to us, the reasons why we're still doing this have changed, you know. And he just started thinking about what do I really want to say? You know, he was reading these scripts and nothing was speaking to him anymore. And he took the plunge and said, you know what, we're going to start creating our own work. If I'm reading all these plays and it's not filling me, it's not firing me up, you know, what is it that I want to say? What is going to excite me? And so we switched gears, and it really kind of happened very naturally. But we now produce works around critical social issues. And so the first play that we did, Crime Scene, and it was, you know, it started the summer, three summers back, where we had just a really bloody summer. And Anthony was like, you know what, this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want to investigate. I want to learn more about this. And so he developed the show Crime Scene, a Chicago anthology focused on the history of Chicago's crime, violence, because we've always been a violent city from the very beginning. And that was our biggest show in years. So then we knew that by really following our heart, that we couldn't go wrong. And then Crime Scene is now going on its third year. It keeps evolving. We do a park district tour now. Now we have a monthly presence in 4 different park districts where we're doing this really great variety show with like community artists, motivational speakers, dancing, and it's just beautiful. I love Collaboration. Really is so much about community, and now almost 20 years, I think we're stronger than ever, and it's really exciting. La Habana is a special project to me. It started, you know, really inspired by a conversation that I had with my father about his early days in Chicago. And a lot of the work that I tend to do really has to do with memory and nostalgia. And a lot of the feedback that I get back from people is, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna ask my parents their stories. I feel like that doesn't happen a lot, you know, of people asking their grandparents their stories or their parents their stories, and then one day it's too late and you've never done it. So that's one reason why I think legacy is important, for us to know our own stories, especially because when you look at, you know, I'm thinking back to my education, just what a limited view of history that we're given in the books we have to read and the facts that we have to learn, when there's so much more out there. And our immediate history, you know, what's my history, what's your history, who are we, why are we? I think it's so important to know where we came from, and then to also pass it on. Like I'm so excited that La Habana will be a show that I want whole families to go to, you know, from the grandparents down to the grandkids, something they can all go to and enjoy the music and the stories, and then come home and share their personal family stories.